This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com.
Let's talk about the best in the world. It's a 1 week stretch between April 28th and May 3rd. And Terry Taylor is going to be working the NWA World Heavyweight Champion, Ric Flair, the other Nature Boy. They're going to have 4 at least 30-minute matches between Mid-South and Houston Wrestling. Did you see any of these matches? What do you remember about those?
Yeah. So I called the match in New Orleans at the Superdome. That was a good match.
Terry has a great story about that, I think, where it's the biggest match of his life. You know, he's sort of one of the top guys in Mid-South, and the touring NWA champion is coming to town. It's a Superdome show.
All right.
And well, Rick does what Rick did back then and nached all night long. So shows up to the building late and looking kind of haggard. And he takes a nap in the back. And of course, Terry is very nervous. This is the biggest moment, biggest match of his life. And who am I wrestling? This guy's not in condition to perform. And eventually Rick wakes up, has some coffee.
I guess he got him the coffee. Terry Taylor.
Okay.
No, he sent Taylor after his coffee.
Tremendous.
You talk about humbling somebody. They didn't sit and talk about their match. And, you know, like you'll see a lot of the talents today do. He said, "Hey kid, get me a coffee." I don't know that Rick was so foggy that he might not even know who he's working with that night, because it didn't matter.
Yeah,
they're going to work his match anyway, and he knew what he was doing, and there was nobody better then or now, at least in my view, and I'm very biased. So he sent Terry after the coffee, and I don't know if they have much more of a conversation than cream and sugar, or they didn't. I don't think they talked about how they're going to get into the match. They knew the finish, and they knew, and the time was up to Rick. And I think, and like I said, they went about 40 minutes. Looked like it was going to go a Broadway, a draw. It didn't happen. But young Terry Taylor wrestling in one of his idols in the Superdome, the biggest venue in our territory.
Yeah.
One of the biggest nights of the entire year. He's wanting all this download, all this information, and, you know, how can we make this match extraordinarily special? And he didn't get that. I'll see you out there, kid. And so they went home when Rick wanted to go home, and they told a great story. And I remember, I vividly remember calling that match. And I think I called it twice. I think I called it there, and then I called an edited version of it later on. It's probably on one of those one of those Mid-South DVDs or something. So yeah, I was all about that, and it was such a fundamental match. It wasn't overthought. It was logical, and it may in today's marketplace, Conrad, it would probably be perceived as being very not mundane, routine. And so there was no Hurricane Ranas and no Tope El Suicidas. There was none of that fancy shit. They wrestled, and they worked in and out of body parts, and it was easy for anybody, grandma or grandson, to follow along. So it was an interesting night, to say the least. And I'm sure that there's nobody in the building more relieved than Terry Taylor after that match ended. They got through it, and it was good.
What a fun story. What a fun night for his career. The Nightmare would ultimately defeat Terry Taylor for the North American title, and Taylor finds himself back in Mid-Atlantic again. Why was Terry leaving the promotion here and moving over to Jim Crockett?
Well, this time, when you run a weekly territory, you have to book it a little bit differently than like say AEW is on every Wednesday night. We're a TV show. And, we're not doing live events right now. I would assume at some point in time that'll occur. Don't know, but I assume that's assumption. So it was just time to move on. Cowboy liked to keep things fresh. As we had documented, Terry had won titles, and had worked with top guys. I remember he had some matches with Ernie Ladd. He had a lot of matches with top guys. And so Cowboy apparently thought it was time to move on. And it also, I'm sure it was under the fact that Crockett may have wanted Terry to come in. That territory is pretty hot. So he's leaving one territory that's pretty hot to one that's very hot. So there's more money there. And, he may have been that Bill felt like he owed Dusty. That's funny. We talk about these things now as a matter of factly that the promotions worked with each other.
Right.
And, I don't consider Impact Wrestling working with AEW the same level. It's just not. Crockett's promotion was great, and they were doing wonderful business. They were big, national TV, TBS, all that good stuff. And I think Terry was jonesing to get back in that national scene because we were a local territory. We didn't have a national overlay. We did for a few weeks, and it did well on TBS on Sunday nights. But by and large, it didn't have that national presence. And that's what a lot of young guys wanted. He wanted to build his brand. So I think it was just time. But I don't remember there ever being any animosity. It was discussed. Terry knew what his schedule was. He knew what they were looking at doing. And he was excited about going to Mid-Atlantic and jumping on that train that was moving pretty fast.
Let's mention that he's going to defeat Black Bart for the NWA national title and hold it until Starrcade 85 when his old foe Buddy Landell would defeat him for it. It feels as if Terry Taylor is poised for a bigger run here. Did you believe at this point Terry Taylor was eventually going to become the NWA world champion? Did you see that in him or not so much?
I saw that possibility being real. Terry's personality and his perceived arrogance in the eyes of
let my family save your family some cash. You don't need perfect credit. You don't need money out of your pocket, but we will save you money. It's not a matter if, it's a matter of how much. SaveWithConrad.com.
Decision makers never did him any favors. He's a smart guy and didn't mind letting you know how smart he was. And he could be a little bit of a dressing room lawyer. So for old school guys, Cowboy tolerated that a lot because Terry was drawing money and all that good stuff. So, but I think that I think that at one time he always had the skill set to do it. But I don't know how seriously he was taken. He wasn't in good political stead with a lot of offices because of his perceived arrogant attitude. And some old school guys like a Dusty Rhodes or Cowboy Bill Watts, they didn't jive with them very well. So that's kind of how I look at that situation.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.